Home, safe and sound, and back cooking again, doing all that stuff. Okay, I was just in town for like the day or so, or 2 days, whatever, getting my driver's license, doing all that stuff. Okay, and in the midst while I'm gone, okay, as usual, all hell breaks loose, whatever. So now what we see is Finland had their little Hunt for Red October last week. And Sweden had theirs, late last year, looking for submarine stuff. Now, this also, right now, what Finland has done, I don't have all the history on Finland. All I do know, yes, the Russians and the Finnish had a skirmish in World War II, and the top-scoring sniper of the world is a Finnish guy, Zumi something. I can't remember what his last name is, or if that is his last name, or anyway. Over 500 kills with iron sights on him, mostly the dog. And yeah, so Russia and Finland, they've got, like other neighbors to Russia, they've got issues. And I guess it looks like Finland, although not a part of NATO, is kind of working alliances with the rest of the Netherlands and stuff like that. And I guess, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, or Kingdom of Denmark, all that. I guess they're all kind of working together. A common interest, because strategically you couldn't pick a worse spot to be in than Finland should all hell break loose and they have to choose a side between Russia and the West. They're right on the border. They're even a worse spot than the Ukrainians because they have no retreat. They're right on the border. They either jump into the Baltic Sea and drown, or they have to push through Russia. They're in a really, really back against the wall scenario. And it just come out that the Finland is basically got 9,000, now I read kind of 900,000 or 9,000 reservists basically are getting in the process of getting notices to be ready in case something happens. In other words, they come out and say, it's not against Russia, but again, who's Finland going to be defending itself against? I know. It's going to be Papua New Guinea. They're going to be defending themselves against Papua New Guinea. Who else would be attacking them? Papua New Guineans. That's who's going to attack them. I know it. So it's not quite obvious who they're, who this is, going to be getting ready for. The Russians, and then I didn't know which way Finland. I still don't know which way Finland's going to go. They're in a rock and a hard place. They can't stay out of it no matter what they do. They become a battleground, so to speak, in a lot of ways. Kind of like here in Canada, we're a battleground, but at least we've got the Arctic between us and Russia. Finland, well, they got Russia between them and Russia. So, they're in a bad spot strategically. That said, these troops being put on alert. There's also in Latvia, I forget the name of the drill, but it's basically going to be, stepping things up. Eastern Europe is basically picking sides. Hungary, Estonia, Poland's already picked its side for sure. Latvia, Moldova, because the people there know that the conflict is spilling into their country, whether they want it to or not. And it's going to. It'll stay in the Ukraine for a while, but when it goes hot, it's everywhere. And at that point, you're either with us or you're not with us. And if you're not if you stay neutral or attempt to stay neutral, you get shot in the crossfire. Because, look at it this way, the United States, the EU, IMF, is doing the same thing as the Russians. Either you're with us or you're going to die in the middle. Pick a side. That's basically what they're doing. Now, for some people, they'll probably pick one side or another. Other people are on the fence. They don't want to, it's like, while the world's superpowers are fighting, we really don't want to be a part of it. But, kind of like a bit of a full circle in World War II, a lot of Europe didn't want to, try to appease Hitler, and it didn't work. And on the other hand, a lot of people willingly, welcomed Hitler into their countries. So there's not much different in that sense. So whether these new more drills coming up right now that are going to be aimed towards anti-submarine warfare makes the question that you never know. I mean, people could be pulling a fast one on us. I'm not blaming the Finns for doing this, but you never know. They could have been duped into thinking there was Russian submarines in their water. All of a sudden now we need to have a huge anti-submarine drill. That said, I most likely would believe that there were Russian submarines in their waters, off of, just off of Helsinki, because, well, number one, you couldn't get any closer to the Northern Fleet. Again, Finland, Finland's like what you would call Western Russia. I'm sure there's some Finnish people there may or may not take offense to that, but you get the idea. Like, from the way I'm looking at it, it's like here they are, big bear, big angler, grizzly bear, right on border here. Yeah. So anyway, anti-submarine warfare. Sweden will be stepping up on that one too. I can imagine what the big scare Norway had, because one of their prime naval bases that they had, they closed down a while back, and people were viewing, saying, "Oh, look at all those nice Russian warships going right by our biggest naval port, and it's closed." So some of that. So you can see everything is stepping up into that. So the Netherlands I don't think they're really siding with Europe as much as kind of saying, well, how do we save ourselves in this? Because I can't see the people of Sweden, Denmark, Kingdom of Denmark, Norway, all that, Finland, I guess Holland, would be somewhere in there. I can't see those people saying, okay, we don't know what's going on. We think it's all the Russians. No, I think they know exactly what's going on. Hence why they're, it's not like they're really moving towards NATO. Again, Russia told or Denmark, look, you guys can join NATO, but then you become on our nuclear hit list if something happens. Again, Article 5, attack against one is attack against all under NATO. So you have to understand that reciprocation goes back and forth. It really does. Sure, if Russia attacked one NATO country, let's say tomorrow they decide to sign Ukraine up into NATO. Well, we're instantly at war because of Article 5. Now, if you're, on the other hand, if Russia's at war with any country in NATO, they're at war with all of NATO countries. This is the kind of deterrent for some countries from joining NATO, knowing that, whether we started it or not, we're at the mercy of basically the EU, the IMF, and the Americans, Anglo-American Empire, that loves to go to war everywhere, and basically they're on the front line. So it's like, yeah, we can get protected out of it, but we're trying to protect ourselves at a time when the provocation is on both sides. So yeah, the Russians are in the Ukraine. I've never said they weren't. They're just not there in official capacity. It's a proxy war. So basically, the way the Americans do the Middle East thing, this is what they're doing in the Ukraine. So they're not there in official capacity. But when they are going to be there in official capacity, with actual, Russian Federation flags flying and badges on their uniform, that's when things are really bad for anybody within proximity of that border. So this includes pretty much all of Eastern Europe. And again, they have to choose wisely. It's like, well, if we choose nobody, we get shot in the crossfire. Or just, people will just roll in and no one's coming to our defense. If we choose NATO and the Americans go ahead and start a war with Russia, well, they're going to nuke us too. So what do you really do, right? And I think this is what European countries are like France and stuff like that are trying to really, kind of come up with an idea so that, hey, how do we keep this from getting out of hand? Because, it's like somebody else doing something bad to somebody else and you get the blame for it. That's the whole kind of thing about it, is that the mad scenario or the Article 5 of NATO is all at war. It's total war. And in total war, if we go back to something I've been quoting from a von Bismarck Zeppelin pilot of World War I, was that when the Zeppelins were bombing London in World War I, the lead Zeppelin, I can never think of the guy's name, but anyway, he was the Zeppelin commander, and he was looking down, and they were saying, "Don't you feel bad about bombing civilians?" He says, "No, they're all enemy combatants, because the guy that goes and works in the factory to build munitions, and his wives and whatever, they're part of the war effort. They're not innocent. The kid that runs the errands for the military brass to bring letters from here to there, they're part of." So basically, it's total war. It's kind of how the war on terror works, where if there's a terrorist in an open market where there's 30 people around, and those 30 people didn't call up the Predator drone people and say, hey, yeah, we got a terrorist here. You want us to get him for you? No, they're supporting this guy by not taking him down. And therefore, you can throw a hellfire into a crowd of 30 people. They're called collateral damage, not humans. That's total war. That's what total war is. And with total war in Europe, nothing's off target. So we're looking at it in those kind of ways. It kind of makes more sense now how nervous Eastern Europe must really be. Again, Finland doing its thing with the submarine last week. Again, if there was a submarine, to me, I say yes because again, the Russians are everywhere. They are poking back. I mean, they're not. The Russians are flexing their muscle, but it's in response to. Again, every time NATO does something, Russia does something 10 times bigger. You send troops into the Ukraine to train Ukrainian soldiers. Okay, well, we'll put nuclear submarines in your waters. That type of thing. You send in night vision goggles to the Ukrainian soldiers, we'll send in a battalion of T-72s. The Russians are one-upping, or not one-upping, they're like 10-upping everything. I mean, just follow it. You don't even have to take my word for it. The people that were probably on the anti-Russian side of the argument would probably definitely agree with me. People on the pro-Russian side of the argument, well, you can't explain away the equipment. Again, yes, you can probably explain from Putin's point of view, saying, hey, look, we don't know where our soldiers go for their vacation. And you can probably even argue some plausible deniability, but it's not like they're looking into it, you know what I mean? So, sure, you might be able to give them that. Say, okay, look, well, I can't be accountable for every soldier that goes on vacation and ends up dying in Ukraine fighting. Where they go choose their vacation, that's fine. But then, how does Putin explain the Russian Federation T-72 that goes across the border? You can't. You can't just, in Russia, as crazy of a country as it is to be able to do crazy things, which makes it a very interesting country, but you can't just take a T-72 out for a Sunday stroll either, right? So we can kind of see that, yeah, there's manipulation on all sides. But on the other hand, why are U.S. soldiers in the Ukraine and bordering countries of the Ukraine gearing their APCs with 30 millimeter, Striker APCs with 30 millimeter cannons, in case they get conflict with Russian troops? Well, why? The first question is, why do they think they're going to be having conflict with Russian troops? Where are they going to be that this is going to be a problem? I mean, if they're training people up in Poland, they shouldn't have to worry about people on the eastern side of the Ukraine, should they? Just saying. So we can see provocation is on both sides. Both sides want to go to war. That's all you need to know. So clearly, like I've always said, there's no good guys in this. The U.S. is definitely not the good guy in this. Both sides of the aisle, Democrats, Republicans alike, love to get into a war with Ukraine. It would be beneficial for the states because of the $18 trillion deficit that they have that you know about, and then probably about the other $200+ trillion in unfunded liabilities. So a mass culling of the population would work to the advantage of the American people, or the American government, not the people. The people don't want that. But the thing is many of the people are, like everywhere in the world, most people are asleep at the wheel. They have no idea this stuff is going on because they don't follow it. And a lot of people won't follow it because they're too scared to. And I guess rightfully so. So, again, we look at what the elites are doing, what they're saying, how they're acting. Again, they're nervous. And now it comes out, our favorite friend, George Soros, it looks like they're going to hit him up with tax evasion. About time. They're saying basically, maybe not tax evasion, but he has to pay his back taxes of about $6 billion or something like that. Because he made about $15 billion, starting from about $12 million. You have to understand, too, this man is the scumbag of the earth. This man, basically went door to door stealing, people's resources and money and wealth under the Nazis. It's like you can't even make this stuff up. And here he is trying to tell people how to be democratic and how countries are, should, step up to Russia, basically asking Europe to go to war with Russia, so he can get his investment. This man is the scumbag of the earth. And he even said, when they asked him years later, hiding his Jewish identity to go and, collect property from other Jews under the Nazis. How do you feel about this? Well, I quite rather enjoyed it. Yeah. Now, he's what I would call a Zionist, not necessarily, he may be Jewish, but I'd call him a Zionist because of the way, Zionists seem to have Zionists seem to have a lot in common with the Nazis for some reason. They tend to have the same programs. So you got to wonder about that. You know, they tend to view the world the same way. They're extremists, no matter how you look at it. Not all Jewish people. I've never said that. I never will. But the Zionist faction, again, Zionism is to Judaism, is the KKK is to Christianity, is jihad is to Islam. They're the freakish element that gets. They're the bad people. They're the bad people. So you got Warren Buffett out there. You know, he's out there too. I mean, he's been going around buying up railroads and gas lines and everything. So when everything collapses, these guys are going to have everything in their name. But that might be a little bit of a trick, because even Bill Gates is out there talking about, you know, how the rich should be taxed and stuff like that. But you know, when it comes to their turn, it's funny, all these guys, you know, especially Bill Gates sitting there saying, well, government bailouts are bad and stuff. But all the Warren Buffetts and Bill Gates and stuff like that, they've benefited more from these programs and everything because of the sub-companies they have. They get government money. So it makes you really ask the question, are these people really wealthy? I mean, if there was no government welfare, could they have made it as far as they have? Absolutely not. You know, I know there's some people out there that think Bill Gates is the gift to humanity, but I don't know. I think this man, just listening to him speak, kind of tells you kind of how offbeat he really is. You know, George Soros, well, pretty much everything he says is horrible. You know, Harry Kissinger, you couldn't pick a more evil man. 50 years after the fall of Saigon, and that cretin's still around, going around trying to blow up the world. You know, it's just a horrible, horrible person. And they're all linked together, all of them. They follow the money, right? So I would like to see George Soros have his assets and everything seized until they figure out what to do with his you know, his fortunes. You know, considering that they weren't lawfully obtained. You know, like all these uber rich, they're never going to face justice under the system that they created, pretty much. So whether it's George Soros or Harry Kissinger or Zebru Brzezinski or any one of those guys, they've created this system, the Rothschild, Rockefeller stuff. So yeah, of course they're never going to see that end of it. But they would be better too. Again, the human wave that will be coming for these world elites, which was talked about in Davos. I mean, again, if you were in the system and you were rigging it to fail, and you knew that the people, at some point, you're going to be stealing with banker bail-ins, like in Cyprus, worldwide, that you know that at some point this thing's going to go really awry on you, and if it does, you're doomed. Of course, at that point, you know, you really don't want to be facing. You'd rather be facing the justice system than the collapse of rule of law. So what's the best thing to get going? Well, again, we have that, you know, the Baltimore thing, Ferguson, you know, that keep people distracted. Again, the people that are in the know, and this is the problems for the world elites, and I'm not making any threats, but again, like I've said before, Muammar Gaddafi was the future of the world elites. Why? Because when people have had enough, you're going to get basically a pitchfork revolution. They'll massacre these people in the streets. It's like going to be like the Salem witch hunt, but with bankers. And no matter where they hide, I mean, it doesn't matter how wealthy they are. If enough people want you gone, you're gone. It doesn't matter how, you know, who you are. You know, and that's the thing that they don't realize, that they're not invincible, even in their kind of psychopathic transhumanist mentality that they have, that they can live forever. They're just really crazy people. They are mentally ill. Problem is are they mentally ill enough to actually get us into a war? I say yes. I mean, look at Sheldon Adelson sitting there a couple of years ago joking about letting off nukes in the middle of the desert just to show Iran that we're serious. And okay, the first time you hear it, okay, yeah, it's like, okay, well, don't make mountains out of oil. The guy's just, you know, putting out a whatever, you know. But it's when you hear it the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, the eighth time, you really got to question the sanity of these people. You know, and so when you know that they've got like that kind of Captain Ahab, got to get the great white whale kind of Moby Dick kind of syndrome, like John McCain, we got to go to war and arm everybody. It's like, I think the guy's got a short circuit at some point. Give me gun, must blow. Anyway, yeah. He's kind of like the New World Order speech that George Bush did, but in high speed. So here's George Bush. Well, with this New World Order, And then John McCain, New World Order, got to be real fast in New World Order. It's like a frickin' squirrel or something. I don't know. Got that glazed look in his eye or whatever. But anyway, with that, I don't know how much other info I got, but again, more NATO drills, anti-submarine stuff, and yes, Russia has a new, what's it called? It's a new battle tank. To me, it looks like a dressed-up T-90. I don't know what it is exactly. It's not the Armada. I think it's called the Armada. The T-14. Could be something interesting. It looks like something that they had back a while back. It could be a hot-rodded T-80. I don't know. But looking at like the wheels and the chassis, it does look very T-90-ish from that point. But it could be just, again, a new dress on a T-90. Who knows? They have the T-90M, which is pretty cool. But this new tank, it has like 2 anti-aircraft guns on it. They did this on a T-80 back in the 90s, where basically it was supposed to be air defense and a tank at the same time. So it's kind of a neat idea. I don't know how well it will work, how practical it is. Again, how much Zu-23 ammunition can you carry? How much 30mm ammunition can you carry? 2 30mm cannons. You add like 100 rounds between the two of them. Does that cut into your 125mm main gun? You know what I mean? Like, so the vehicle isn't any bigger. So is it just another dressed up T-72 or T-80 or T-90? That I don't know. I'll have to do more look into it. How good is the reactive armor on it? That I don't know. I do know the Russians have been playing around with the T-90 MS, where the reactive armor actually detonates before the large projectile hits, and on smaller projectiles, it doesn't detonate at all. It just reflects it. So it's actually smart armor. So that's could be a problem. Biggest problem with the reactive armor is usually it only works once. But if it's enough to get a return shot or whatever. Again, the Russians usually design things to last the battle. Command's not really that important. Overwhelm them with numbers. Their philosophy on that hasn't really changed much. And of course, they're coming up with more missiles. I forget what the new missile is now. Again, they're just hot rodding everything they have. So we see again our arms build up. We're in a new Cold War for sure with all the arms build up that we're seeing. And of course, other countries, again, getting really paranoid. Finland, again, being only about a week after they had, the Red October scare, like Sweden, they gave a little bit more of a chase for a couple, with their incident, and than the Finns did. But the Finns actually did drop, hand grenade depth charges, just to let the submarine know that we know you're there. Of course, Russia's going to deny it. You're not going to tell them that you're actually there. But we also do know about, a couple of years ago with the Russian submarines kind of just, motoring back from Venezuela on the surface. And then, of course, in Hurricane Sandy, when an Alpha sub kind of washed up with the mechanical problems into Norfolk, Virginia. Hello, we see big American naval base. You host us just that we fix sub. We have a problem with can opener or something. Or maybe nuclear warhead. We're not sure yet. We give you vodka, let us pour it. So these things show up, and with the new submarines out there, the Bori class boomer sub and the Yasin class attack sub. That thing is the Yasin is the one I think that's kind of more of the threat in the sense to a naval fleet because of its 40 cruise missiles. It's armed to the teeth. It's quiet, 40 knots underwater. It's faster than the Alpha sub. Based upon like the Alpha Kula 2s and again, the Russians don't reinvent the wheel; they just refine it. Basically Su-27 turns into the Su-35 at the end of the day type of thing. And they keep refining and refining. So in that sense, yeah, they're you can see the Russians are clearly building up. That also too, as the markets in the here. They're so manipulated, and people are starting to notice that they're poor. Here in Canada, we're enjoying a bit better of a life quality than a lot of people in Europe and stuff like that. We're one of the best countries in the G7. But the problem is when everybody else goes, we got nobody to do trade with because everybody else collapsed. However, my Prime Minister, love him or hate him, is kind of, again, I still say Harper's in it for himself more than anybody else. Yes, he's a globalist. There's no doubt about that. But when you look at, okay, we do 80% trade with the United States, okay? if they collapse, we're pretty screwed, but not really, because we're doing all these we're doing trade deals now, a $15 billion trade deal with India. We're going to start selling India uranium. I don't know if that's really a good idea, but we're going to be doing it. Why? Because I think Harper, being a former economist himself, yeah, globalist agenda or not, that's the biggest problem I have with the guy, is that he's a globalist. But he does know 2 plus 2 doesn't make 5. Meaning, when the States fails, we need to make up that 80% trade elsewhere. And that's all the man's been doing. So yes, our growth is hugging the line, but it's still growth. Growth is growth. It's not lightning growth, but it's like hugging the line. So we don't gain that much every month in jobs, but over a couple of years, our economy's gotten a little bit bigger. So you got to give credit there. I mean, it's just, I wish we were more nationalistic and would protect ourselves a little bit better, but who knows? Maybe we might do a complete reversal here in Canada, and after the States goes awry. Okay, well, that's it. And Canada could be a non-nuclear super. Well, we could be a nuclear superpower if we choose to do it. Back in the 1950s, like, well, we got all this uranium lying around. We can build nukes or hospital equipment. Well, we'll just do hospital equipment. So refinement is not a problem for us. I mean, we build whatever we want, but we choose not to, which is good. I'd rather stay out of the nuclear club if we don't need to. You don't need to be there. So with that said, I guess, don't know if there's anything else I need to add. I guess I'll leave it at that. So this is, I guess, a bit of a shorter one, but just to keep people on notice. And if you are from Finland, tell us what's going on there, because I'll be honest with you, I don't know an awful lot about Finland. I do know there's tensions between Finland and Russia. Again, little tiny country here, big bear right beside, very angry, needs to take a crap somewhere, yeah. So, so I don't know how, and even the Finnish government, I don't know which way they're going to go. Like, they're a deer in headlights right now. It seems like every other week it's like, oh, they're going to, make peace with Russia and stay with pro-Russia, and then other times they want to get away from Russia. They don't know what to do, And again, who's really going to be able to save them? I mean, even Norway and Denmark and all that, they've still got that big body of water between them to get, to get over there to help the guys, right? So I think they can help, but they're just so strategically screwed, It's like North Korea, South Korea. It's like, one side's attack the other. It's like, you're in the fight whether you want to be there or not. So, but I'd love to hear from anybody from there, what their take is on this whole ordeal. Whether it was 9,000, 900,000 servicemen, I got to notice. I'm sure that must make the people in the country kind of nervous. It's not a big country. It's only a few million people. But again, we see the lines are being drawn. Which side of the fence are you going to be on? And again, the people that are the deer in the headlights that don't know what to do, I think, again, they know that they're going to be the monkey in the middle being shot at. So the United States will not come to the aid of the people that are not on their side. So again, it's good cop, bad cop, or big bully, worse bully. There's no good guys here at all. So you got to feel for those people. So again, I love to hear from all sides of it. I'm sure there's people that agree with me, people that disagree with me, whatever. But either way, that's what's going on. So anyway, if you like this kind of content, please consider making a donation to the channel. Thank you so much to everybody who has. Rate, subscribe, share, comment, like. Be true to yourself. Be true to others. Always do the right thing. And have yourselves a great day, eh? And I made macaroni, and so you can see, because I know someone's going to ask, what's on the pot? What's in the pot? And it's macaroni. All right, have a great day, eh? G'day, hey, hi, and welcome. Okay, so I'm back home, safe and sound, and back cooking again, doing all that stuff. Okay, I was just in town for like the day or so, or 2 days, whatever. Getting my driver's license, doing all that stuff. Okay, and in the midst while I'm gone, okay, as usual, all hell breaks loose, whatever. So now what we see is Finland had their little Hunt for Red October last week, and Sweden had theirs late last year, looking for submarine stuff. Now this also, right now, what Finland has done, I don't have all the history on Finland. All I do know, yes, the Russians and the Finnish had a skirmish in World War II, and the top scoring sniper of the world is a Finnish guy, Zumi something, I can't remember what his last name is, or if that is his last name, or anyway, over 500 kills with iron sights on him, mostly the dog. And yeah, so Russia and Finland, they've got, like other neighbors to Russia, they've got issues. And I guess it looks like Finland, although not a part of NATO, is kind of working alliances with the rest of the Netherlands and stuff like that, and I guess Norway, Sweden, Denmark, or Kingdom of Denmark, all that. I guess they're all kind of working together, a common interest, because strategically you couldn't pick a worse spot to be in than Finland. Should all hell break loose and they have to choose a side between Russia and the West, they're right on the border. They're even a worse spot than the Ukrainians because they have no retreat. They're right on the border. They either jump into the Baltic Sea and drown, or they, have to push through Russia. They're in a really, really back against the wall scenario. And it just come out that the Finland has basically got 9,000. Now I read kind of 900,000 or 9,000 reservists. Basically, are getting in the process of getting notices to be ready in case something happens. In other words, they come out and say it's not against Russia, but again, who's Finland going to be defending itself again? I know. It's going to be Papua New Guinea. They're going to be defending themselves against Papua New Guinea. Who else would be attacking them? The Papua New Guineans. That's who's going to attack them. I know it. So it's not quite obvious who they're, who this is, going to be getting ready for. The Russians, and then I didn't know which way Finland. I still don't know which way Finland's going to go. They're in a rock and a hard place. They can't stay out of it no matter what they do. They become a battleground, so to speak, in a lot of ways. Kind of like here in Canada, we're a battleground, but at least we've got the Arctic between us and Russia. Finland, well, they got Russia between them and Russia. So, they're in a bad spot strategically. That said, these troops being put on alert. There's also in Latvia. I forget the name of the drill, but it's basically going to be, stepping things up. Eastern Europe is basically picking sides. Hungary, Estonia, Poland's already picked its side for sure. Latvia, Moldova, because the people there know that the conflict is spilling into their country, whether they want it to or not. And it's going to. It'll stay in the Ukraine for a while, but when it goes hot, it's everywhere. And at that point, you're either with us or you're not with us. And if you're not with, and if you stay neutral or attempt to stay neutral, you get shot in the crossfire. Because, look at it this way, the United States, the EU, IMF, is doing the same thing as the Russians. Either you're with us or you're going to die in the middle. Pick a side. That's basically what they're doing. Now, for some people, they'll probably pick one side or another. Other people are on the fence. They don't want to, it's like, while the world's superpowers are fighting, we really don't want to be a part of it.